What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be installing some hydraulic bump stops from Mid-Atlantic Off-Roading. Alright guys, so we're going to be installing the Send It hydraulic bump stops from Mid-Atlantic Off-Roading. They're a bolt-on kit. I am going to be installing them on my 2016 Toyota Tacoma. I will show you a step-by-step process on how to remove the old strike plate and install these new hydraulic bump stops. If you're interested in these, go check out the Mid-Atlantic Off-Roading. I will link them in the description below. Use discount code WICKEDOVERLAND at checkout and save yourself some money and help support my organizations that I'm donating money to. Alright, so the kit comes with obviously 2 hydraulic bump stops, the new bracket for the frame. These are designed and fabricated by War Metal Fab. They do a great job. They're powder coated to a textured black. I like the textured black over a flat or a gloss. They come with new U-bolts, the strike plate, also it's a U-bolt flip kit. So if you haven't done a U-bolt flip kit, this comes with it. So part of the kit is the U-bolt flip kit. They give you your bag of hardware and your bump stops, which are adjustable. You can also rebuild all of these. They're rebuildable, and they come in this nice anodized blue, so this look real good underneath the Tacoma and add a ton of protection for my new suspension system. Alright, I will go through the tools you need as we go through this. There's a few different ways to grind off the factory strike plate, which is pressed in. So first thing we need to do is jack the truck up, take off the rear wheel, make sure you've chalked your front tires, and use a jack stand. Let's go. Alright, now that we got our tire off, you can see the factory strike plate. We're going to be removing these 4 heads off the, yep, that thing. I currently have some King shocks. I am replacing all of this with new suspension, so I'm going to be removing my bracket for my King shocks, so that way I can attack this. I already have a flip kit here. I'll be removing this and installing the brand new one because the plate comes out here a little bit for the hydraulic bump stop. So won't be needing this anymore, but I'm going to tackle this first. We have a couple different ways to take this off. If you have a 4-inch angle grinder, we can zip these heads off, flat disc them down, punch them out. If you have a air drill or air hammer, you can score these, and then they'll just pop right off, and then you can punch them through. It's going to be a little tight on this side here because we have very little room here, and we got this in the way. So this has to come out anyway, and then we're going to score this a bunch of times, and then we're going to chisel it off. Down here, same thing. We're just going to zip these off, and then we're going to get a pry bar in here, pull down, and this whole thing should come down. Alright guys, so I got my reservoir out of the way. I had a little bit of trouble getting the bolt out. So if you don't have that, this is where you start. So a couple different ways. Like I said, if you have a air hammer, you can chisel those right out of the way. I don't. So I'm using a 4.5 inch angle grinder. We're gonna attack those. And of course, got our safety glasses, gloves, because you don't want to be risking getting any fragments in your eyes or cuts in your hands. So a couple things that I'm going to be a little bit more mindful of while I'm grinding away is I'm going to be careful of my gas tank here. I'm going to try to not grind when I'm down here on this one here. I'm going to try to stay away from my gas tank. I don't want to slip and puncture that. And I'm going to try to keep a lot of the sparks off of my braided lines. They're rated, but I'm just going to try to keep what I can away from that. So yeah, now it's just start grinding away. Alright, that one side here is off. We got the bottom one off. Now we got the tricky side. Now we've got the tricky side. We've got this one here to attack, and we've got this one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to slice this one down in a bunch of lines, and then use my chisel and hammer it out. Similar to the bottom side as well. So I don't like how close these brake lines are to where I'm cutting. I'm going to try to get a little piece of rope, pull them back a couple inches out of my way. They're just right next to the blade. Alright guys, my cuts are made. I have just made a checkerboard out of each one of those rivets. Did the same thing on the bottom. Might be a little harder to tell with lighting. Same exact thing. Now I'm going to take my chisel and chisel those right off. With any luck, chisel those right off, and with any luck they'll pop right out. And then I'm going to take a flat disc. I'm going to grind all this smooth with a flat disc, and then try to punch those rivets out. Alright, so that took a couple extra cuts, but as you can tell, it is, for the most part, flush. The bottom one came off a lot easier, being able to set a better angle to hit that. Now I'm going to take the flat disc. I'm using a 60 grit flat disc. I'm going to smooth out all 4 of those rivets, and then we're going to try to break this free with a crowbar, or we're going to try to hammer out those rivets. Alright, they are all fairly well smooth. Our first attempt will be to get a pry bar in here and try to break free. It's definitely not going anywhere, which is what I kind of expected. So we're gonna try to punch these out or drill them out. The other thing we can do is try to break them free with that chisel that I had. Now what I want to show you is, it might be a little hard to see on camera, but that rivet is actually starting to break loose by attacking the insides of these supports. So I'm going to keep working that, and then I'm going to try to punch that out. That one broke free. We get the bottoms to break free. Alright guys, that's what we're looking for. We just had to work on the chisel. I am using a wood chisel, Harbor Freight, which is cheap enough to replace. I have destroyed the tip on that. And I'm also using a mason chisel as well. So now we've got our rivets that are still sticking a little bit through. We can try to punch them out, or you can also grind them flush, and then we can drill them out. The bottom ones, same thing, they're just sticking out. We will try to punch them out first, and then we'll most likely grind them down flush and drill them out. Alright, so we have taken our flat disc, we've grinded those down. You can see the outline, so we have gone right to the frame, flush, on both sides. What I did here was I took care of some surface rust. We're going to clean this and paint it. Up underneath, the same thing. There's one, and in the middle of that one is two. I will probably touch those up a little bit more just to clean the surface rust up. Now we're gonna do is we're gonna take a punch the center of that, and then we're gonna drill it out. And I'll show you what drills we use in a minute. There you go. First drill bit I'm gonna use is a 9/64. Then I'm gonna go into a 9/16. Adding lubricant as you go will help keep your bit life longer. Alright, we got our first hole drilled. I've moved up to the 9/16 from the 9/64, so it's a little bit bigger. Keep adding a little bit of lubricant to keep these bits sharp. Second one's through. All right, third one's through. Our goal is to get these to a 1/2 inch. So for reference, bigger than that hole. We're gonna be using a step bit here in a little bit, but I'm gonna attempt to go one more size and put a 27/64 through that hole before the step bit. There we go, that's a test fit. Good to go. Alright guys, we have gotten all of the rivets drilled out. These bottom two definitely were much harder than I expected, and I did most of it off camera. But I filed them down, I punched them, I drilled them out step by step, and actually when I got to the 9/24, I don't know, the second bit up, I was able to actually just drive them out with a hole punch. And then I just used a step bit to open them all up to the 1/2 inch size. So they're all opened up to 1/2 inch size. I test fit, I'll go through. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take some mineral spirits and I'm going to clean up all of this bare metal. I'm going to actually clean a lot of the grease because that fluid filmed my frame. I may even use a little brake cleaner, get the majority of it off. Then I'm definitely going to use mineral spirits, clean the sides, and then I'm going to put some paint, probably 2 or 3 coats of paint, let them dry in between. While that's drying, I'm going to start disassembling my U-bolt flip kit to put the new one on. Alright, I'm using mineral spirits. The reason I use this, it actually removes a lot of the oils that are left behind, and even brake cleaner has oils that get left behind, so this will take the fine oils off, give it a nice clean surface. Okay, not too bad. Just a little bit of grime left on there, but that won't get in the way. Yeah, it's nice and clean now. Okay, now I'm going to throw some paint on there and then let that dry and start working on the U-bolt. I'm going to hit it with a primer, and then I just happen to have some high heat, and I don't really care, it's just going underneath the bracket. So this will be my final coat and a little bit of primer. Alright, so my paint's drying. What I'm going to do now is support my axle with another jack and then loosen these up. I have to remove these to put the new one on. If you had a different kit, a lot of them will reuse this and it's an added plate that goes on top. We got to remove this one, so I got to support this entire axle. That way the whole axle doesn't drop down. Now an important note, when you're tightening these and loosening them, do them in even order. So if I do 3 turns here, I'll do 3, 3, 3. That way this whole thing comes off evenly and you don't kink any one U-bolt. Alright, the U-bolt flip kit is removed. The paint is just about dry. I'm going to throw a couple coats of black on there. I'm going to clean this up with some brake cleaner and install the new U-bolt flip kit. Alright, what I did there was just took a brush, took off all the surface rust, gave myself a clean surface to mount the new strike plate onto. I'm going to throw some paint up there and get the other one installed. Alright, so the next step, we've cleaned up our leaf springs, we've painted our frame again, that's all protected. I have got our strike plate. The one thing I'm going to do a little differently than some of you may, I'm going to add fluid film to the bottom of the strike plate. We live in the Northeast, or I live in the Northeast, and the salt is absolutely horrendous up here. And just to help prevent future rusting, corrosion, I'm going to put a healthy layer of fluid film on. Alright, so what you do is roughly center that over your leaf spring. Take your bolt, your U-bolt, feed it through. There we go. Take your washers. Now we're going to tighten them. I am going to add some red Loctite to these. The reason I do that is I don't plan on taking these off. If you ever did need to take them off, you could always just add a little heat. This will loosen right up, and you'll be all set. Same thing with your second one. Alright. Now there's a little bit of adjustment that you have with this strike plate. You want to make sure that your center pin is in the center of your strike plate. So mine can actually get adjusted over a little bit. So one thing you want to check is to make sure that both of your U-bolts are tight to that block. So I'm going to squeeze mine in, and then you can hand tighten them, and then you can start actually installing these. 77 foot-pounds of torque. Alright, I'm using a 22 millimeter socket. And all I'm doing here is evenly torquing these down. So again, if I do 3 on this one, come over here, 3. That way it gives you even pressure on this plate, and your U-bolts will torque evenly. Alright, now that they're all pretty hand tight, we're going to do a torque on them at 75 pounds. The last thing I'm going to do is add some marking grease so I can check to see if these actually back off any. I'm going to use some of this bolt mark just to mark. So we got our bolt. We're gonna have our bolt, lock washer, and a nylock nut on the backside. Our bracket, and again, I'm gonna be adding a very helping heap of fluid film right behind the bracket. I'm gonna add a little bit to this as well. We've added our fluid film. We've got our bracket. I'm gonna start with the bar. Alright, all our bolts are in there hand tight. We can now get the appropriate socket wrench and tighten them all down. I've got my 21mm socket to go there, and I've got a 22-inch crescent wrench to go on the back side. Now that they're all hand tight and I've impacted the top, there's no given foot-pounds of torque for these, so I'm going to match these to the U-bolt flip kit. So I'm going to put these at 75 foot-pounds of torque as well. There we go. All at 75 foot-pounds of torque. Again, I'm going to add my bolt marker to these as well. All right, now comes the fun part. Now we have our bump stop to install. So we take the top collar off. I'll show you something neat about these. Alright, so we take your collar off, and you'll notice there's a little Allen, just a little Allen screw in there. That's going to be your set screw, so once we get our adjustment done, you're going to tighten that Allen. There's one on both collars, and that will hold your collars from coming loose or moving. So we'll slide this up. Goes down. I like it. Again, fluid film in there. All right, we've got our bump stop in place. The adjustment's going to depend on what leaf pack you have. I have the Old Man Emu Dakars with the Add-A-Leaf, so substantially thicker than stock and much thicker than like the Icons with the Add-A-Leaf. So depending on what leaf spring pack you have will depend on how you adjust your bump stop. Now I've got King shocks. They have a fair amount of travel. So what I want to do is make sure that I set these so this doesn't ever get fully compressed before this hits. So for me, I'm going to leave this all the way down, so basically where it is. So you got to play around with it, and it may take you some trails to go off and see how they perform. But it's simple as undoing your Allen head bolt, adjusting your entire collars up and down until you get your desired height here, and you're good to go. Alright guys, we are complete. Our project is done. I gotta say, they look amazing. They really pair well with these King shocks. Unfortunately, these King shocks are going away. They'll be up for sale soon. I've got a whole new suspension system from Mid-Atlantic going in right now. I'm putting in their Send It suspension to go along with these Send It bump stops. I will get these tested out next month. We'll get some good video of it. We'll really put these to the test on some back roads, and then hopefully this summer we'll get them off-road on some pretty hardcore obstacles to see how well they hold up. I'm super excited. I can't wait to get these to the test. Alright guys, if you are looking to get hooked up with a set of hydraulic bump stops, go check out Mid-Atlantic Off-Roading. Link is in the description. Use discount code WickedOverland at checkout to save yourself some cash, help my channel out, and they're way more affordable than you think. I promise you that. Alright guys, I am done on this side. I'm going to actually start replacing my shocks, getting the Send It suspension rear shocks in place while I've got this tire off. Alright guys, I hope this helped. I hope this gives you some confidence to do it yourself. It's pretty easy. It takes a little bit of patience. I hope that this helps you decide if you're going to go with hydraulic bump stops or more of a traditional rubber bump stop. Either way, I hope this helped, and I'll see you in the next one.